thank you so much for having me, and congratulations, class of 2019. Congratulations on all of your hard work. And I have to say, it's so nice to be back home in Toledo. It's a little bit strange, however, talking to a bunch of people who already know parts of my life story. I didn't really have time to look up all of you on Facebook beforehand, so you guys definitely have the advantage. Well, even though I didn't go here, I do have secondhand experience, as I witnessed my older brother attend law school here. He lived at home, and I remember being 14 years old, watching my brother live on cans of pork and beans, staying up all hours of the night reading incredibly long books about constitutional law and tort reform. And to give the University of Toledo College of Law some credit, he was a sleep-deprived mess, but he seemed to be very well educated. And at the time, I wondered if my 14-year-old problems were really that important. But he always reassured me that they were. He always took the time to drive me around, give me brotherly advice, and threatened to subpoena anyone who bullied me. So in a way, I had a vicarious education into what schools should teach you. The value of consistency, sticking to your commitments, and making time to care for others. When I was in the 8th grade, I went to Christ the King, and my dad was the coach of our basketball team, the Christ the King Raiders. And I remember that we were in the championship game. We were up against this team of girls that were all at least 2 inches taller than us. I mean, they were really, really big. And he saw the looks on our faces. We were all very scared and intimidated. He called us into a huddle and he said, "I don't want any of you to be scared. And you'd better not play scared out there." Really, we were more scared of him. But we went out and we defeated those Amazonian girls by 1 basket. A few years later, I was getting ready to go out and host Saturday Night Live as a 21-year-old. And I was really very nervous and very, very scared. But my dad came into my dressing room about 5 minutes before I went on. And he came up to me and he said, "Kate, just have fun. Be yourself. They're lucky to have you." And in that moment, I wasn't scared. When I was 16 years old, I went out to Los Angeles with my mom, and we did a bunch of auditions, as you do when you start out. And I remember one day we were at this grocery store, and there were a lot of young people around my age. And I was surrounded by young actors who had lived in LA for many years. And they started asking me about my previous acting experience. And I didn't have any. And my mom saw the look on my face, which was pretty deflated. And she brusquely ushered me out of there and said, "Well, we're not going back there. Because, Kate, don't worry. You have nothing to be ashamed about. You are you, and you are who you are, and you're from where you're from. Go in, have fun, and be yourself." The next audition I had, I nailed. Thanks, Mom. So don't be intimidated about that first job or internship or audition. And if you get it, well, I have some tips on what you'll need when you're first starting out. So, if you're moving out, make sure you have what you need to feel comfortable. When I first moved into my apartment in Wilmington, North Carolina, where we shot Dawson's Creek, I got dishes and a good coffee cup. And then I felt better, because I knew I could start the day off right. I went out and found all the best bakeries in Wilmington, so I knew where to go when I needed a pick-me-up. Another thing I learned: don't use a fake ID to buy wine and then try to pay with a check. I'm aware that no one pays by check these days, but that's just more reason not to do it. That'll be extra confusing. When you're in the middle of a natural disaster, pay close attention to directions. I remember seeing a hurricane warning on TV, and it said, buy water and also fill your tub. So what I did was buy a huge pack of Poland Springs water bottles, and then later when I was pouring the water into the tub, I realized this is probably not what they meant. Another thing, even though my friends told me to stick my jeans in the freezer to clean them, it just made them stiff, so don't do that. I used to sell a bunch of my clothes and then use the money I got from doing that to buy more clothing. I was losing a lot of money, but I was like, I'm running a business. I'm saving so much money. I'm not sure what the lesson is here, but just be aware of your finances. And if you don't have too many loans, and hopefully you don't, see if you can travel for at least a little while. Mark Twain said that traveling was fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. We live in a country where we have so many options, and for so many people in the world, our worst days would almost be a dream come true for them. Try to continue your education for yourself on your own terms. So keep passports updated. Now, if only Barry's Bagels was a global chain, right? It gets cold out there, so make sure you have a scraper for your car. If you don't have a scraper, you better hope you have a pointy elbow. You don't know what the weather's going to be like, and that is not a metaphor, it's just the truth. But more than the essentials, i.e. a dish set and a windshield scraper, make sure you have someone who's going to be in your corner. Be grateful for the people who push you. I used to know this producer who always set me up on meetings and got me to go to auditions for parts I thought I had no chance of getting. And after a while, her confidence started working on me, and I was going to those daunting auditions by myself and for myself. If people believe in you, it makes you want to believe in yourself, and vice versa. People react to your confidence. I've been tricking folks for years into believing I'm other characters, and I haven't gotten caught yet. Guys, it's all fake. I worked on a play with a famously intense director who kept pushing the cast to rehearse our lines over and over until they didn't even sound like sentences anymore, and we were just shouting angry syllables at each other. He was very demanding. Often in acting, directors will say something like, let's take a soft 15 minutes. He would say, let's take a hard 15 seconds. But by the time we opened, the cast had totally grown as actors, and we felt the hard work had all paid off. And then when I directed my own movie, I used some of the same techniques as that director. I pushed myself and my actors just as hard because I knew it would make us all better in the end. But because I'm a kind person, I let them come in 15 minutes late with Starbucks sometimes. I know you guys would never do that. You all seem very, very punctual. So do the best you can with what you have to work with, because you all have a lot to work with, more than you may know. You've all been through a lot. You've had your own wild and precious lives. You've maybe even been kicked down around a little and learned how tough life can be. I think you probably all have very strong and intimate relationships with your laptops at this point, but really nourish that friendship with your computer, because it can be your best friend in your early 20s. It will literally keep you warm at night. You're all going to graduate and go your separate ways, but keep on supporting each other. People come back into your lives, and kindness costs nothing. For the young women in the audience, I want to encourage you to lift up, listen to, and trust one another. I would not have been able to direct the films I've directed without a chorus of talented, creative, and brilliant women to give me support, to workshop ideas with me, and to proofread my emails to make sure they don't sound angry. I like to just add a lot of exclamation points after the word hi. Do you guys do that? Women need each other now more than ever to continue the fight over equal pay, mutual respect, and the war against systemic abuse and mistreatment. I went on a trip last month and met women who had fled Afghanistan who are now refugees in Greece. And we would spend all day with them and make clothes, and art, and have dinner, and have dance parties, and then one of them would tell you that she was forced to marry a man at the age of 13. So keep your eyes wide open. There are women half a world away who are going through the worst oppression you can imagine. And there are women 2 seats away from you who could probably use a listening ear right now. I've had the help I needed to write and produce these stories about mothers and daughters and the bond between them, and especially now, women supporting women could not be more important. I've been so lucky in life to know people who have given me their wisdom, experience, and advice while I was growing up. My family has welcomed me home every time and sent me back out into the world. My dad, the inflappable voice of reason, the championship-winning coach. My mom, who reminds me that there's no shame in being who I am and that I can always come home. And my siblings, to whom I will always be the baby who has to wash the dishes and take out the trash. So when I moved from Toledo to North Carolina at the age of 18 to start working on Dawson's Creek, we were 4 unknown actors working for a network that had just begun. No one knew what was supposed to happen. Luckily, something did. The odds were totally stacked against me. But guess what? The odds are stacked against everybody. So if you're waiting for a sign, this is it. I'm going to be that basketball coach and that producer and that big brother to you all and tell you that you are the person who's going to go out there and make things happen for yourself. And that's a terrifying and amazing responsibility. But you deserve joy, not in 10 years, but now. So try to be equal parts tough and gentle with yourself. Take things one step at a time, work hard when no one's looking, and don't let anyone say you never called them back. Thank you.
Dr. Holmes,